Welcome back to New World Fantasy Football, episode 31, with my co-host Keith Chief over here. I'm slumming it up. I got my Giants blanket on. It's cold.
I got a hoodie.
Still ain't feeling great. Paul's rocking a hoodie. What's
It
up, Paul?
must
How
be
you doing?
winter in the South.
Yeah. Atlanta South is different than Orlando South, but regardless, I like it. It's a good look. So how you feeling, man?
I'm good, bro. I'll kick off the vibes this week. My vibes are high. Other than having to go to the dentist today, which always sucks for me. I hate people with their hands in my mouth. Insert joke here. But other than that, vibes are flying high. I went 3-0. Technically, you could even say maybe 4-0 because I actually co-manage a league with a coworker, but I never count that when we do our vibe checks because it's a joke of a league with 8-man. But regardless, I'm helping a guy out that just started watching football this year. And I will ask our listeners to indulge me for just a moment as I deviate away from football. My vibes are especially high because my Orlando Magic are actually fucking good now. And I will say that with confidence. Andrew knows this. This has been an inside joke between the two of us since basically, longer than I would even like to admit. Dude, next year. They're legit good. They got their number one pick in Paolo. They got Franz, the German hammer in the pants, and they're riding a 7-game win streak and smacked up the number one teams in both the West and the East. So I'm riding high off that. I will cease the basketball talk there. I know that's not what you came here for, but that is part of where my vibes are coming from, and I'm a very happy man in my sports fandom today.
As you should be. So in other news, the Rangers lost a game last night, but they've been good this season, so I'm happy about that. But fantasy football, I went 2-1. Excuse me, 2-1. The one league I lost, I 2-10. So like, I'm dead in the water anyway. See behind me, I'm still at the shipwreck. No one's found my body. But
you're down there with those submarine folks looking for the Titanic.
Oh man, they're just dust now. They're floating around. Sadly, poor people. But at least they don't have to watch their fantasy team suck. Anyways, I did win in a league that I commission. I'm now 8-4 there. Team's looking solid. We'll see if I can make a run in the playoffs. And the Megala Bowl, there's 12. That's a 12-team league. 6 teams make the playoffs. I am right at 6th. And having to fend off like 2 or 3 other managers. So we'll see how that goes, but exciting stuff.
So then what happens, Andrew? So let's say, okay, you make the playoffs. So basically, I just want to make sure I understand. So you essentially have to win that league to enter a bigger tournament, or what? How does that work?
I have no idea. I'm just going to keep playing until the fantasy footballers tell me not to. I do not know what happens after.
Word. I like it. Walk by faith, not by sight.
Exactly. I'm like the Book of Eli out here. Great movie, by the way.
Well, shit, man. You sound like you're in pretty good spirits. It sound like I think that the best thing for your fantasy football mental health was just to let the main league die and focus on the ones you can still focus on.
Yeah, and of course, set my lineup, try to win, but don't expect much.
Well, you got to protect against the sack now.
Huh?
You got to protect against the sack now. You're in sack.
Yeah. Last place. I mean, by the way, I forget. Did we make that regular season, or was that?
We went back to the playoff format. Since
okay, I like that. That's fun.
Now.
Okay, so.
but just for the listeners to know, we've always used a ball sack plaque.
Mm-hmm.
For the last place in our league, what ends up being the last place. But this year has a special punishment where for the entirety of the following season, whoever earns the sack, I will choose your team name for you. and it will be a very unflattering team name. So do not win it, Andrew, because it will get announced here.
I will do my absolute best not to. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, another tradition we have in our league, if you're not in our league, is to, if you have the lowest scoring team that week, you have to chug a alcoholic beverage of your choice. Typically it's a beer. I get to hang my hat on that. I still haven't chugged this year, even though I'm in last place.
You haven't chugged. I haven't chugged either.
Wow. We're
Zero chug crew
sober.
right here.
We are completely sober out here. This is a root beer.
I'm getting thirsty.
So,
and the funny thing is, I'm inviting bad vibes into my home by saying that. With all these shitty bye weeks coming up, I very well could be a chug candidate this week. So stay tuned. But moving past vibes, we actually had a big week for me on our picks last week. I actually got you 6-1.
Yeah. It didn't feel good when I was watching it. I wasn't really tracking it, but I was like, I think I got a lot of these wrong.
Yeah, even though the Bills lost in heartbreaking fashion, it was still technically a cover. Like, a lot of games actually ended up being like that, where it was like, well, it kind of didn't go how we expected it, but it was still technically. And like I think a lot of the things really came down to the smash teams ended up covering.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, I went -sign hunting a lot this week too. But now I'm up 3 on you, so we're coming down to the stretch run. So I can smell the steak as we speak. And it was a terrible week for guaranteed-ees. Literally the only guarantee that hit twice was you with Zay. So
thank you.
And an even worse thing than not hitting guarantees is watching primetime games in the NFL lately. Obviously, very topical because of how absolute dog shit the Minnesota-Chicago game was. I think with one combined touchdown.
Yeah, it was just
two teams. Dude, it's unreal. There's been 36 primetime games this year. And so out of those 36, I will ask you the question first and then tell you. Would you say that the Jets, the Panthers, New England, and the Giants are like the worst offenses to watch in football? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, though, they're all pretty terrible. So maybe there's a few more that suck too, but definitely them.
Yeah, like teams that became sucky, right? Like maybe the Browns or Cincy, but weren't sucky all year. Those are the worst. Those are the a lot of the teams that are chasing that Caleb Williams pick. Well, 10 out of 36, basically a third of all primetime games this season featured one of those teams. That's hell. That's hell for football fans.
You know, when you want to, especially on a holiday weekend, when you're looking to like just sit down and enjoy football, you know, my dad was saying it.
Family.
Yeah, my dad was saying it because he's not a huge football fan. He likes football. He just doesn't watch it a ton. He was like, I just hate seeing a blowout. It's so boring. So he's like, that first game was like the Packers were blowing them out for most of it. The second game, the Cowboys kicked their ass. The third game, the 49ers wiped the floor with them. He's like, that's not the football I enjoy. Like, I want to see some back and forth where it comes down to the wire. And it's like, yeah, I feel you. I think most people want to see that.
Like, welcome to 2023, my friend.
And it's like, if it is a close game, the thing is, it can be exciting. So full disclosure, I literally watched the last 4 minutes of the game last night because I said, dude, I just had a feeling it was going to be a boring ass game. And I was like, screw it. On top of that, I really didn't want to watch. I didn't want to do anal kegels watching Cole Kmet last night, needing him to score less than 12 points, which he did. So I won. But, you know, I was just like, screw this. I'm going to just play some video games and chill. And I'm not even going to bother with this game. But I watched the last 4 minutes because I saw it was like 10-9. And it was fun to see that Justin Fields, you know, drive down the field, hit a nice throw to DJ Moore that was cool. Maybe I
That was probably the most exciting play of the game. So you actually are lucky
They
because
said it on the broadcast. Actually, they said this is the biggest play of the game.
that's funny because I quit watching the game with basically like 5 or 6 minutes to go. So like you and I, between the two of us, kind of have coverage of the game. There really wasn't much to learn, Andrew, except that the pastronaut fell back down to earth and became the astronaut. 2 S's.
Yeah, and at the same time, you know, Justin Fields can't throw the ball down the field, and they won't let him. I mean, I want to say can't. Can't might not be the right word. The offense is not set up for him to do that.
He has before. That's the crazy thing with Fields, and he's shown the ability to do it. We've seen it with some really big performances, but we've also like ball security has always been an issue.
Mm-hmm. Taking sacks.
It's been down.
It's on him, but it's on him and the O-line. He holds the ball a long time. Yeah, not being able to see the field and read a defense very well is a big part of NFL. You know, the NFL game, obviously, and you know, Tom Brady came out and talked about it. He talked about that mediocrity of the NFL right now, and yeah, I agree with him. Between shitty refereeing and shitty quarterback play, there's so many games that are just it's hard to really get excited for them because it's like, all right, we got another 36 over under, 2 backup QBs. These players are injured. Like, you know, it's tough. It's tough. I still love it. I'll still watch it. I'm interested, but yeah,
we talked about it before that it's crazy that there's not more good quarterbacks. So I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
and I remember that interview. I saw it. The one quote about basically like, you know, there being a lot of mediocrity in the NFL that gets disseminated around. Like it is taken out of context. Like I think Tom was more so just talking about how some of the rule changes have created some bad habits. We talked about the flopping quarterbacks thing a couple times. And I kind of agree with what he's saying. And I always am going to love Tom for bringing a Super Bowl to my boys down here in Tampa. But I will push back on what he said a little bit and remind him that in his last season, he was kind of contributing to that poor quarterback play and the mediocre football. That is not me dunking on Tom Brady's full body of work of being the greatest NFL player and winner legend of all time. But let's not forget, hey, man, last year in Tampa, there were some interceptions. There was some bad football. There were some noodle arm passes. So, you know, he who throws the first stone, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but I also have to say he was 40 plus in those years, and you got a lot of young guys coming out. I think that really can't end up doing the job, and I just think that there's not enough QB development, and I do agree with Tom that the bad habits are being, you know, like taught into these guys. And, you know, we see it all over the place. And I do feel like
throw crazy across your body before learning the fundamentals.
Like I've had this conversation with a lot of people. So the last thing I'll say about it is, you know, there is a shift to more athletic type quarterbacks. And I think that when you go from being peewee football, high school football, college football, and all those levels where you're the most athletic guy on the field and they put you at QB because you have a cheat code, and that's awesome. That can work in the NFL too. Don't get me wrong. You know, Josh Allen does it all the time. Lamar Jackson's capable of it. Obviously, Justin Fields is capable of it. But when you don't develop the most important thing still throughout your entire youth of actually being a good passer and reading a defense, sometimes that leads into pretty bad football, and we're seeing that.
Well, and it's happening at the college level too, right? Like,
tremendously.
You know, Caleb and Drake, right? Like, are not having great senior seasons. I don't think that really changes how we view them as NFL prospects, but maybe they are getting some of those bad habits too. And I'll tie this back, Andrew, to, kind of the original thing I wanted to talk about before getting into these games is with all of this bad football in prime time, should the NFL just start using their flex power?
Yeah.
I know that's not like the rules or whatever, but like there are good games every week. We preview all the games. There's always a couple good games. Those should be on primetime, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a little bit more liberal thinking when it comes to switching things up. People want to watch good football, and if you have 4 or 5 straight Sunday night game, Monday night games that are just crap, the casual fan that isn't fantasy degenerates and bettors like us, they're just going to say, this is boring. I'd rather watch The Voice. I'd rather watch The Masked Singer, for Christ's sake, or some bullshit like that. Put on Netflix. Let's watch The Office for the 16th time. It's more entertaining than this.
Yeah, it's that is, and the NFL obviously makes a fuck ton of money without our help, but I completely agree. There are plenty, like the way you get past having a good product is because sports betting is so prevalent. Your dad doesn't do it, right? So like he's like, well, this game is boring. I have no interest in the game. Well, the way that you get an interest in the game is, you take the fourth quarter under and you're sweating it out as somebody kicks a 58-yard field goal that is meaningless to the outcome of the game. That's the only way that people do it, and they're going to keep doing it because they're fucking addicted. But if you want to make the casual non-sports bettor more of a fan of football, putting the best brand of football out there. There were some tragic things. The Jets, we were not expecting to see Zach Wilson. I get it. We were not expecting the Giants to be a full dumpster fire. I get it. But New England and Carolina, though, we kind of should have seen that coming, right?
I don't know. I mean, Bryce Young being the number 1 overall pick, you would think he might be able to win some games and not be looking like a freaking little baby boy out there that can't do anything, frankly.
Fair. That's fair the first time, but fool me twice, shame on me. They should be able to pivot off these games.
Yeah. After what they've played 11 games now. Yeah, I think it's you can pivot off those games.
You know what games are going to be good or not, but I digress. We will get into these games.
Yeah.
Trigger warning. We just talked about bad football. If you don't like bad football, cover your ears, take a shot, do whatever you got to do to make it better, because we're going to get into some bad football here.
But first, you should probably like the video and subscribe.
Yes.
Because we've entertained you for like 30 minutes now. I mean, come on.
It's like, well, even if you hate us, put a comment in the comment section that says, Paul, your sweater makes you look like my grandmother. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But this is bye-week hell. It is absolute bye-week hell. Unlucky 13. This is the palindrome episode 31, previewing episode 13. I thought that was kind of funny. But the Bills, the Ravens, the Vikings, the Bears, the Raiders, and the Giants are all out this week. So
I'm so happy to not watch the Giants this week.
Yeah, me too. But outside of that, and obviously Saquon, right? But there are a ton of tilting managers, myself included, that are looking at their lineups in week 13 and vomiting in their mouths because there just aren't a ton of options out there. But we are going to talk about who is playing and potentially some options that we can throw in there to mitigate this horrendous week of football that the NFL in their infinite wisdom has decided to give us and not space out bye weeks better. Without further ado, Andrew, on Thursday night, on not Turkey Day, Seattle is visiting Dallas for their 4th cake matchup in a row. Dallas is 8.5 favorites at home. over-under is 46.5. And Ken Walk is still not looking good to play as of Tuesday. So it's looking like another smash area for Dallas.
Yeah. All Dallas does is blow teams out at home, and they're gonna end up doing that again against a very weak, struggling Seattle team.
Yeah, they're looking tough. Their receivers, I would really try to stay away. There hasn't been a ton of passing volume to go around. JSN has actually looked pretty good. I think he's ascending, but he's not going to ascend enough, and especially not in this matchup for it to really matter for your fantasy lineup. The only thing I've got is Charbonnet hasn't cracked double digits yet, and he's had the backfield to himself for sure as of last week. Are you still confident throwing him out there against this line?
No, there's definitely no way of being confident in him. He hasn't shown you enough. He has a bad matchup. It's a Thursday night, which is usually one-sided or just ugly all around. I think that, he's one of those players that with the bipocalypse, you might have to play. He's better than playing like trying to get lucky with Rico Dowdle on the other side, or one of these take your pick at Samaje Perine or something like that. I'd still say this guy Charbonnet's better, but it's not an ideal start.
Don't expect a lot. You got to hope for a touchdown.
Nope. But if you're struggling, he is a volume play, and they can 3.2 yards per carry and 4 or 5 dump off their way to like 8 or 9 points, which is not the worst.
It's not sexy, but it's probably better than your other options. It really feels like Brandon Cooks is Dak's new favorite number 2 receiver. It was Fergie for a large part of the season, but Dak's been actually pushing the ball down the field, which is something kind of new for us. Like, do you see that as a continuing trend? Are you locking Brandon Cooks into a lineup until further notice? Like, what are your feelings on that?
That's, to me, that's more of like a matchup thing. And this matchup is totally fine for Brandon Cooks. I would definitely start him this week. The Dallas Cowboys on both sides of the ball are playing with a tremendous level of confidence, and they're making it look easy. I don't think Seattle is going to give enough resistance for you to not start your Dallas, all your Dallas players, really. I wouldn't go so far to say Michael Gallup, but the main guys. Yeah.
When you're overwhelmingly more talented than every team you're playing, you're going to look really, really good. But I'm still reserving any judgment on Dallas till I see them get a real like statement win. It's kind of like we're picking college football. Right. I'm picking Dallas to cover though.
Oh, me too. And we'll see. Hopefully they end up with another pick 6 and I can start my week off in one of my leagues where I have Dallas pretty good.
Yeah, they've been an amazing fantasy asset on defense. Miami's visiting the sad sack Washington Commanders. They are 9.5 road favorites with a really high over-under, which gives Washington actually a respectable amount of points. We got a 50.5 right now. Obviously with Miami, it becomes a really like repetitive conversation to keep talking about their studs, so I'm not going to do that. If Devon Achane misses again, is JWJ a solid start for you?
He's not, because we've seen virtually nothing from the guy. He started off injured. I know he got on the field a little bit more, but like Mostert is just a dude. He's the dude they trust down on the goal line. Like, I don't want to play around with that.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of that actually. He got 14 touches last week. Obviously, against the Jets, there wasn't much resistance they could put on offense, but if it goes the way that I think it's going to go and the game gets out of hand pretty quick, I think JWJ, if you're in bye week hell, is fine to start. I think they gotta start thinking about giving Raheem Mostert some rest. Like, I know he's been a revelation this season, but he's 31 and a running back. So I'm actually am pretty confident that JWJ is going to give you a pretty clean double digits this week. That's mine.
Okay. All right. Give me a points prediction, fantasy points prediction.
For JWJ?
Yeah.
11.
See, I've got I think maybe he gets you 5.
By the way, on our last trash prediction, I think Jalen Guyton and Huge have maybe 3 total fantasy points each.
Yeah. When you're digging through garbage, that's what you're gonna find.
I think JWJ is fine. I think you could start him in a flex. On the other side, dude, I don't understand how Washington can have so many total passing yards or yards of total offense, and yet have almost no reliable fantasy players outside of B-Rob.
Yeah.
But Curtis Samuel had a ton of targets last week, was pretty productive with them. In the current landscape of shitty bye weeks, is he a guy that we can grab up and throw in there in a pinch?
Yeah, definitely in a pinch. This is another guy. Starting with confidence, absolutely not. Starting with hope of upside, sure, why not? They seem to ping pong between these random receivers all the time while Terry McLaurin's on the sidelines twiddling his freaking thumbs. But
I don't understand it. I do not understand it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. This week, Miami's matchup might look green, but they got Jalen Ramsey back a few weeks ago. They got their other corner back. I forget his name now. Xavier.
They've been a better defense recently, and they've got some talent on that side of the ball against a team that has a penchant for turnovers.
And a team that takes a lot of sacks. Their O-line's rough. Miami's got a somewhat decent pass rush. I don't know, man. This game, Washington is just becoming a pile of shit, and they'll put up. Sam Howell will put up decent stats, but they're
on the Caleb Williams track like everybody else. That it seems like they're getting silly. They're getting silly for Willie.
Go ahead and clone the guy. Let's have 10 Caleb Williams out there. But
so you are with me. I assume that you have Miami covering.
I got Miami, dude. I don't see how Washington manages to do anything in this game. Their secondary is also ass, and they have Tyreek Hill just pounding them every freaking drive. So yeah, I gotta take Miami.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good week for chalk personally, but we'll see as we move through the rest of these matchups. I think we have a game that is actually somewhat better and maybe not a better game on both sides of the ball, but a game that's at least closer. Detroit in the Dome at New Orleans. 46 over under. They're giving Detroit just 4 on the road. And I think that has everything to do with the Thanksgiving laying a turkey egg in the middle of the field against Green Bay. Goff was Goffle.
Yeah.
In that matchup, he was gobbling. I tried to sneak in as many Turkey Day jokes as I could there. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there was something that was exposed there, or if they just had a dirty game.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's more of just one of those divisional games that they got punched in the mouth early, and Goff just made too many mistakes. Jordan Love played well. The Packers have looked a little bit better. Yeah, they just, I don't know. They didn't come ready to play, and they're cursed on Thanksgiving. So
They really are, and I guess some things will never change, like Tupac said.
yeah, death taxes and Lions losing on Thanksgiving.
We've noticed this for a few years now. When Goff doesn't have the play action working, he's a different quarterback. He needs that to be a part of the offense, and he needs that to be dialed in and locked in. So hopefully they can do it this week for all the fantasy options that we love on that team.
Yeah, their O-line had a rare crappy game against an underrated pass rush from the Packers.
those edge rushers for Green Bay were coming at them.
Yeah. This game, go ahead.
I was going to say, on the New Orleans side, they might not have any pass catchers at all.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say, it's
Olave with a concussion. Shaheed's already ruled out with a quad.
Yeah, and Thomas has been out. So fire up your Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need him, right? Shit.
I mean, I think they're gonna be needing him for a spark. Very interested.
Who among the other pass catchers in New Orleans do you? Again, it's bye week hell. They got to pass it to somebody. Is it A.T. Perry? Does Juwan Johnson get a little more run? Like who are you targeting out of this gaggle of pass catching options?
Well, I would like to. If you have an emergency start at tight end, I like Juwan Johnson this week because he's just going to be Mr. Necessary. I think we're going to see Taysom Hill be involved a ton. And, I mean, holy crap. They have Lynn Bowden out there. like the ghost of 2019 past is out there playing right now.
I had no idea that he was still kicking around, dude. I literally had no idea.
Crazy. I heard the name, and I was like, what? This guy's alive?
Well, it was just like, I always thought it was like, oh, he came into the league and like he did like the Simpsons meme where he just like went in and came back out. But hey, I guess he's been kicking around with the Saints. Good for you.
Sweet. So, yeah.
It's not going to be Keith Kirkwood. I know that.
Dude, the most random. Yeah. I mean, this game is one of those games hard to predict. What I do feel confident in is Taysom. And funny enough, their other tight end, Juwan Johnson. I feel confident in those two players that they are going to get you. Juwan should get you something. And I think Taysom's going to have a pretty solid game.
And I think Kamara is going to absolutely eat.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the Saints do. That's how they approximate a passing game is just, I mean, it's going to be generational desperation dump-offs from Derek Carr.
Dude, he might see 15 targets.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. Dude, I mean, I've got Detroit covering in this game. I just don't think Nola's offense is going to be good at all.
Dude, you've got a bunch of guys running around out there that Carr has not developed true chemistry with. You think that means nothing? Like that freaking means something to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know what happens at their practices, but they're not out. There's nothing like playing an actual game to get chemistry with somebody. And
he should have chemistry with Chris Olave, and it was starting. It looked like it might have been developing, but yeah, if he's not out there this week.
So I got a question about a certain player of this game. Are you, I'll bring this back to my boomer days of fantasy football just a little bit. Just a little sidebar. Are you familiar with the name Javid Best?
The name rings a bell, but I can't place it.
Javid Best was a running back for the Lions for I don't know, maybe 2 years, something like that. But the dude literally got concussed out of the league. I am wondering if that's a real possibility for Chris Olave. Because he's had a few early on in his career. And with the way he's built, that concerns me.
It's too early. It is too early to have this amount of concussions. It is concerning. I really hope not, man, because he's electric.
Yeah.
I remember
Bobby
that.
Best was good as well.
Yeah, no.
But
Now that you jogged my memory, I remember he had some juice. But with the draft capital and the kind of position he plays, I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. Look, Tua still hasn't had a back injury, quote unquote, yet this season. But no, I really hope not. I hope not. You have Detroit too?
I got to take Detroit. Yeah.
Chargers at the Patriots, the pathetic Patriots, the losing to Tommy Pastrami Patriots, the Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, twins switching jerseys Patriots are 6-point road dogs to the also asinine Chargers. Man, it's like this game just sucks. And there really isn't a ton that's exciting to talk about. I mean, with the Chargers, we know that Keenan's going to get a ton of targets. He's the only receiver that's worth a fuck on the Chargers. Who are you putting the blame on for this dumpster fire?
You already know it's Brandon Staley.
Yeah, I think for me it's a combination Eiffel Towering of fuckery between Brandon Staley and whoever their GM is. Because yeah, Brandon Staley has made a tasty mistake out of the ingredients that he's had to cook, but somebody fucked up doing the shopping too.
I'm about to say, I mean, I'm gonna have to put some alert on the screen of Paper Mario reference. We do
that one a lot.
Yeah.
But dude, it was just it's just crazy because outside of a few standout players that they do have, obviously Eckler hasn't been as good this year, but
yeah,
he has been a standout player and a great player throughout his time there. But outside of a few guys that have really been good, the team is ass. It's ass. And they're wasting a super talented quarterback in a league that is thirsty for super talented quarterbacks. Ridiculous.
yeah.
No fantasy assessment with that other than I don't know, man. Justin Herbert will probably have a decent game against the Patriots, but you got to kind of nerf your expectation of Herbert a little bit because his weapons aren't great.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's capped by the injuries, and I have Herbert in a league, and when Josh Palmer went down and it was long term, I was like, damn, dude, he's down to one reliable guy. At least, I know Eckler has been reliable in the past, but still, you need a few guys, actual receivers down there, actual pass catchers down there. I mean, I guess once again, emergency tight end start. You can always throw in Gerald Everett, hope for the best. But yeah, I mean, this Chargers team is just, it's ugly. And then crazy enough, on the other side of this game, you have an even more ugly team in New England. So yeah, New England has virtually, you can start Ramondre, of course. You can start Zeke if you really need to. Once again, crappy week with bye weeks. And we don't even know if Demario Douglas is going to play. Who is
I don't know. King. I don't know why it doesn't just show up for me, but I'm trying to pick out the receivers that were picked behind Quentin Johnston in this year's draft.
Well, they just played against Zay Flowers.
Yeah, well, and so Zay was a name I knew, but I've got him right. I pulled him up now. Zay Flowers,
Tank Dell,
Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, Tank Dell, Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs, Michael Wilson. I would take all of them over Huge. That's a fireable offense right there. Right there.
Yeah, Quentin Johnston, man. People get and myself included, sometimes
He's got the body. He's got the body. He can still develop technically, but you didn't have the time for that.
Here's the deal. Sometimes people don't like to pass judgment too quickly. I am fine being wrong. I don't care about that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I think we have N'Keal Harry 2.0. Flat out. That's it. I think he's that bad.
And the Patriots, it's funny, we're tying it back to the Patriots here. The Patriots also have a horrible track record of drafting receivers, but you know what they've done? They've actually had a history of drafting other position groups fairly decently. Ramondre Stevenson and get the fuck out is really the conversation ender with New England. Oh my God. Can I really pick the Chargers to cover that they never cover? But it's the Patriots. They suck too. Ugh, I don't know. I don't know what to do.
What's the over-under?
40. And it's they got the
I meant the spread. What's the spread?
They got the Chargers by 6.
Man. And they're in New England?
They love to either win or lose by a field goal. This is a tough one. I'll let you go first.
NFL makes no sense a lot of times, but I'll put it into my logic sphere. And you lost to Tommy DeVito, undrafted rookie, Paisan, sensation, my brother from another mother, who's not very good, an offense that is really bad. The Giants defense has been solid. They've been they've ranked top 10 PFF for 4 weeks now. All that being said, if Justin Herbert can't actually go out there despite his crappy weapons and beat this pathetic Patriots team by more than 6, then the Chargers are just useless. So I'm going to take the Chargers and pray.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. Jesus. The narratives are going to be disgusting if that happens. Hilarious, but disgusting because of how pathetic the Chargers are with the luck they've had with getting Herbert.
Yeah.
The next game, a game, we shouldn't have even spent that much time talking about the previous game, but here's another shitty one for you. Zona at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 5.5 home favorites, which Pittsburgh is hilarious because they don't like being favorites. They like being faded. It's a 41 over-under. Tyler has been simultaneously good for fantasy but bad for football. He's had rushing scores. He's actually run a lot more than I expected, despite coming back from the ACL. But his numbers, man, it's a small sample size. We're talking he's not even at 62% completion percentage. He's only got 2 touchdowns against 2 interceptions. And he's not making sound decisions, and his timing seems off, at least from what I've seen. So I guess for those of us, selfishly, myself included, that have investment across multiple leagues in this offense, am I panicking going into do or die playoffs here?
So are you asking about Kyler Murray?
Basically, I'm asking about the weapons that Kyler Murray is supporting, because I know Kyler Murray as a quarterback himself will probably be fine, but I just like you're going to have to make decisions week 14 and on, that are going to decide your fate. And quite frankly, the weapons in this offense were better when Josh Dobbs was there.
Yeah, I mean, coming off a long absence, it can, the up and down nature can be understandable. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be very concerned about Marquise Brown. He's just not really.
Particularly, that's who I was talking about.
Yeah, he's not really getting the involvement you'd want. I think if you have Trey McBride, you're pretty thrilled with what you're seeing. You know, his upside is long term is great. Short term, he's still attached to this Arizona team, but he is giving you what you want in terms of consistency at tight end.
Yeah.
So I trust him.
Tight end where it is, he's really been a focal point of the offense. So I'm great with that. It's just okay with Hollywood relying on plays developing down the field, needing timing, and an offensive line that can hold up for more than 1.1 seconds. We're concerned. The fantasy community is concerned.
Well, this has got to be a James Conner game because he's going back to Pittsburgh where he started his career and had some good moments there. So, I don't see how anyone could be confident still rolling out Marquise Brown at this point.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I will be, but that's a direct result of By-Mageddon. On the Pittsburgh side, they look better. I'm not going to lie, man.
They're at Canada, and there you go.
They cut off Canada, and they have discovered a brand new land. It's called between the numbers. It's called the middle of the field that they've made a discovery that it exists.
Yep.
Which is huge for Pat Freiermuth, who had a big game. Obviously, with tight ends the way they are, he's absolutely in play going forward. But like the question for me is, what's up with their receivers? They seem like they're trying to out diva each other. They, Pickens and Deontay have both put some pretty suspect tape out there. Some shit going on in the media. Obviously, the worst optics was, I'm sure you saw this too. Deontay Johnson just basically quitting on the fumble play.
Yeah.
Can you still start these guys with all of these bad vibes?
I would normally say no, but the matchup makes me more confident.
Pick one.
I actually this week I'm going to go Pickens. I think that the Muth got the love last week, and Pickens is going to get some love this week. The Steelers
Pickens had Thanksgiving at Mike Tomlin's house, so he might be the new favorite.
Good for him. I hope it was delicious. But
Mike Tomlin seems like he knows his way around a fried turkey. I think he'd make a delicious one.
Yeah, I'd love to have a solid turkey again, because the one we had for Thanksgiving was really good. So I'm like,
hell yeah!
Again.
It's hard not to dry out a bird like that, but if you do it right,
oh yeah, it can be delicious. So, speaking of dry birds, the Cardinals' offense has been midnight.
Yeah.
So
do you think they're going to keep being dry, or do you think they're juicy this week? What do you think?
I think that the Steelers. So the spread is what, 5.5?
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Cardinals.
Mm.
I think the Cardinals are going to be able to make it a bit of a closer game. They'll bounce back because they do have some talent on this team, and they have fought hard all year. And I know the offense looked better in Pittsburgh, and I think it will be somewhat respectable. But Kenny Pickett is Kenny Pickett.
And for as much as I've trashed him, Najee's back to being startable.
He is. Definitely in this matchup too. Both you can start both those guys. Warren.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Arizona loves giving up yards to the running back. I mean, freaking your favorite guy, Kyron Williams, lit them up last week. So
yeah, I expect Warren to have some big plays in this game.
Yeah. You can definitely start both the guys. And for what it's worth, I agree with you on Pickens. I think Deontay gets punished for that. I don't think Tomlin cares about the social media shit. But if you disengage between the numbers. I think he will punish you for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Pittsburgh to cover. That's gonna be our first disagreement, and I am literally the minus sign king today. But I just think they're a better team at this juncture, and they're at home. I like them. I like them with a touchdown. I just do.
All right.
The next game, Carolina at Tampa Bay. They're giving Tampa Bay 5.5 at home with a wonderful 37-point over/under. And before I get into Carolina, because obviously normally I start, just kind of with the lead team, but I have to do something here. I got to bury my boys. They're cheeks. They're not good. And it took me a long time to kind of realize this, and obviously the Kiefer Bowl, right, where they had Indy and Tampa in the same game. Obviously, I'm thrilled to see how well Indy's been doing, but conversely, it's really frustrating for me to see Tampa be, in my opinion, less than the sum of their parts. Baker has had some really dumb turnovers. He's fumbled the ball a couple times now in key spots in games. He's got the moxie thing always. He's run for some big first downs. Like, all that's cool. In totality, because of where quarterback is at this juncture in the NFL, he's been fine. He's probably even been above average. But it's crazy to me that I look at the roster and I see, okay, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, Baker Mayfield, Tristan Wirfs. I look at the defense. Levante David up until very recently. And you have Vita Vea, you have Antoine Winfield. I look at all of these players and I say, this team should at least clear 7 games. This team should be threatening in a division that nobody seems to want to win. But I have to finally admit they're less than the sum of their parts. Bowl seat is on fire. And I just don't see how it gets any better, and how they've taken really a team that should have out-talented probably 2 out of the last 3 games they've played and have just been ass. No fantasy analysis whatsoever, just a fan venting, but that's where my vibes are with Tampa.
Yeah, I really can't say I blame you there. They've lost what? Like, was it 5 of the last 6 they've lost now?
Sure have.
Which is super disappointing.
They started 3-1. That seems like a whole lot of time ago.
Yeah. It does. And from a fantasy perspective, there's 2 startable guys, maybe 3, but what's going on, man? Chris Godwin has looked, well, I don't want to say looked bad, but he's just not producing for fantasy.
He's a possession receiver on a low volume passing offense.
That's all you got to say. It's not somebody you want in your lineup at that point.
And he should be more than that. He's capable of more than that. He's proven to be capable of more than that, but that's all he is in this offense.
What's the contract situation with Chris Godwin?
He's coming up on it. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I want to say, well, no, he actually re-signed fairly recently. I want to say maybe there's 2 years left on it.
Okay. I seem to remember them.
I can find that, but make your point.
I seem to remember that being in question, and then he ended up getting re-signed not too long ago. So yeah, I think Tampa, it's Rashad and it's Mike, and that's really where I'd leave it. Desperation play, of course, tight end, Cade Otton, because he seems to be out there on every play, and you never know. Tight end, the tight end crapshoot continues. Carolina, man, their owner is pretty hot-headed.
Yeah.
He last year fires Matt Rule midseason. This year fires Frank Reich midseason. Who I
So,
honestly think's a pretty good coach.
So Andrew, I was wrong. The re-signing, quote unquote, that he did. Basically, what I'm reading here on Spotrac is he can be released after this year, which is not going to happen because he's got 20 mil in dead cap.
Yeah.
So more likely he's through 2025.
Okay. I gotcha. Okay, cool. So the Carolina side, Adam
They
Thielen.
annexed the Third Reich. Ha ha.
The Adam Thielen, super disappointing game.
Oh my God! What did he get? 2 yards?
Yeah, 2 yards.
Jesus.
Mingo isn't getting involved a bit. I think in this bipocalypse, you can still start Adam Thielen. That seemed to be more of the outlier. He has not been quite nearly as hot as he was early in the season, but
Chubb Lubb is barely startable. It is a bad matchup,
yeah.
but he gets a ton of volume and he gets targets, so he's fine.
Yeah, the targets is always going to elevate the floor there, and sure, yeah, Chuba he's a flex guy for sure. You can throw him in and hope for the best. I mean, he's been all right. That's really
all of that being said, I'm still taking Tampa to cover. And I don't honestly, man, it's not an analysis thing. I don't have a lot of confidence in this team's coaching. I don't have confidence in this team playing clean football, but I'm picking it because I'm choosing my life. And if Carolina comes into the Bay and beats Tampa Bay for their second win on the year, there will not be a 30-second episode of our show as you know it. And I will leave it at that.
I think that's fair. And I am also going to take the Bucks. I'm going to give a bit of a different reason. The reason for me, yeah, okay, you fired the coach and people expect there to be that kind of morale boost and all that.
No, people actually like Frank Reich. They hated McDaniels.
Who you mean Matt Rule? Who was there last year or? Oh, you're talking about different situation. Okay.
Yeah. The Raiders.
Raiders
partied after McDaniels got.
Yeah. I don't it's that. So I think that the morale actually goes even further down. But I also the real reason is some new coach is not going to be able to instill confidence in Bryce Young. He is very much
ghost, man. It's not great.
He's seeing ghost. He's a shell of what he was in college. I think he's going out there every week, like basically going out there, throwing up the prayer sign, however he prays, and being like, I hope this goes well. I don't think he goes in very confident, and he's just hoping for the best, and he's not willing it. Like you have CJ Stroud, who's like willing his team every week. Even if they don't win, he makes sure they have a chance to win.
Can you imagine? I can't remember a worse vibe situation for a fan base than this. And maybe I'm being a prisoner of the moment. You have a longer memory than I do, but man, to trade all those assets, to jump ahead of the best quarterback in the draft, to pick, I don't want to ruin anyone's career, and the situation around Bryce Young hasn't helped him any, but what seems like picking the wrong guy and then losing every game to have this year's quote unquote generational prospect get picked by the team you traded with, an owner that has fired 3 coaches since he's been there. Is there a worse vibe? I can't picture it. I can't imagine it.
So the thing about sports fandom, and especially like NFL fandom, it feels like it's probably true of every major sport, but just keeping it with the NFL is like you always feel like the sky is falling when it's not good, and you always feel on top of the world when it is good because it's an emotional thing. But right now, just looking from like a bird's eye view of the NFL as a whole, I don't see how any fan can feel worse because your team looks like crap. Your
and you
savior,
don't have the pick to fix it.
yeah, you don't have the pick, and the pick was last year, and he's on your team, and he looks terrible. So, you sign, you make weird signings. Mingo, maybe he's a victim of what's going on there. He also
He hasn't looked very impressive either.
No, and like you go look at some of his advanced metrics, and he's like for the rookie receivers, he's ranks pretty low. So it's like he's still above Huge with a lot of those like advanced metrics. But man,
he's one of the 15 receivers that was drafted after him that I would still take above him.
Yeah, me too. I will say, if we say Huge, it's Quentin Johnston. That is a direct steal from the fantasy footballers because
it is.
That is a hilarious nickname.
We are fans. We are fans of the fantasy. This is not a rip. It is a tribute. We love you, FFBs.
Yeah. So, God, I mean, and then I don't follow the Panthers enough. Apparently, Ikem Mikwonu, he's not looking all too good either, which was what draft did he come out with? Did he come out with he came out with Evan Neal.
Yeah.
So I mean, he still looks better than.
Well,
Evan
I mean,
Neal.
look, and we're spending way more time on them than they deserve, but
yeah,
I feel like they are on their way to gutting the entire brain trust for like the third time in like a very short order. So yeah, tough. Yeah. Sorry to my Carolina fans. I actually we know a Carolina fan personally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry about you.
And McCaffrey's having a hell of a time over there.
He sure fucking is. He's over there. He's over there partying. He gets to hang out with what's the he's that famous girlfriend of his. What's her name?
I don't know, dude. I don't know about
it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. But anyways, moving on.
It just feels like there's like a samurai sword just inside of every Carolina fan, and every time McCaffrey scores another touchdown for San Fran, it just like put it a little further in.
It just twists. It just turns counterclockwise.
Yeah. And then DJ Moore as well.
Clockwise.
And then DJ Moore as well is like,
yeah,
man. Okay, yeah. When something's a train wreck, it's hard to look away. Okay,
that's why it's so fun to talk about, because I'm not emotionally invested in it. But if it was, oof.
Yeah.
So Atlanta is going to Jersey, to play the Jets.
To beat the Jets.
34 over under. Atlanta's favored on the road by 2.5. But I will say one thing about Atlanta. Finally. Bijan
Robinson.
Bijan. We got the consolidation. We are using our talented first-round pick, the best part of our offense. Finally.
But they have two other ones.
Arthur.
Drake. Can you pull up Drake London's stats? Because I feel like he did okay.
He did fine. I don't remember it exactly, but he had a usable game. He's had usable games this year. 11. He had about 11 fantasy points, 5 for 91. He's been fine, and
yeah.
He's getting consolidation from their horrible passing offense. So those are two players that you can always start now.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a really bad matchup, so take that into consideration as well. I think that if Ritter's going to throw the ball 28 times and 12 of those go to Drake London, you got to figure he probably ends up with a semi-reasonable fantasy day. By the way, weird. I truly think Heineke is the better option for them. I I don't understand what the obsession is with Desmond Ridder, but he just doesn't look good every time I've watched him.
I think the obsession is that he was drafted by Smith.
The Jets, I mean, I think about the meme that they have with Homegirl from The Office where she takes the two pictures and it's Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle, and she says, "Corporate wants you to find the difference between the two." It's the same picture. They're the same picture.
Yeah.
The Jets, they're going to keep Jetson all the way, and if you want to start Brees and Garrett, that's fine if you want to do that. But I'm going to pick Atlanta in this game.
What's the spread on it?
2.5.
Yeah.
It's a field goal, that is the Atlanta special. They will win by exactly one field goal.
Young Wei Koo is definitely going to do it. The Jets, man. If you want to laugh at the Jets, there is a New York sports radio personality. If you're not familiar with him, named Joe Beningo.
I am not.
He is like 70-something years old. He's been a fan of the Jets his entire life.
Sorry.
And my God, he just every week pretty much when they don't win, which is most weeks, he just goes in and will rip them for like 15, 20 minutes of like, I'm 75 years old. How much longer I got to wait? I might be dead. Like he really, it's funny. But
the things we love, Andrew, we hate the hardest. I relate to that as I've had, some fandom of some very bad teams. Like they've hurt me personally, but I ain't 75 years old. So yeah, that's I'm sorry to that guy. He was probably born into that fandom, and
So I want to say I think Kyle Pitts actually has a decent game here, because the Jets, if there's anywhere to beat them, it's the middle of the field. I think that he could be all right. I cannot project a touchdown for him because that's just not something that Pitts likes doing. But I think he can be solid. I think he can get you like 80
more
yards.
than 10 points.
That's kind of right where I'm at. So, I'm gonna give him. Okay, we'll say 11 points. We'll give 11 for Pitts.
Okay. I just don't know, man. I just don't think. I'm really worried that Pitts, maybe through no fault of his own, possibly through his fault also, I'm on bust watch with him. I'm just not sure it's ever going to happen.
Like when you look at some of his stats, though, I think that the fantasy players in us and the expectations we had, they do skew the perspective of him a bit. But on top of that, I've been saying this for a while, dude.
Three rookie tight ends coming into the league this year are outscoring him consistently.
Yeah. I think that Terry Fontenot, who is the GM of Atlanta, is one of the worst. We have ripped Giants fans alike and other people have ripped the pick of Saquon because as much as we love the guy, he doesn't move the needle enough.
You wasted a career. I said that the minute he was drafted. There's no O-line, an aging Eli Manning at the time, and not really much of a succession plan afterwards.
Yeah.
You don't put the cherry before you mix the milkshake. You got to have a milkshake first, and then the whipped cream.
Right, exactly. Great analogy. Now I want some ice cream, but yeah, man. I don't want to go too far into that because it's not about that, but it's the same kind of thing. You draft
the same concept.
A tight end with it was the 4th overall pick, right?
Right, 4th overall pick.
Who
higher than Drake London, higher than Bijan.
What was that draft class though? Because I think it was that Lawrence? I think it was.
It
Lawrence.
might have been Lawrence, I believe.
Yeah, Trevor. I forget the quarterback who was picked after him now. and then Trey Lance. And then I'm pretty sure it was like, damn, Atlanta missed out on any kind of quarterback. So then they take Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, and look,
tight end.
Here's my thing. Again, another team that doesn't deserve this much time, but if I am Atlanta, now it is terrible game theory. I completely agree with you. Shitty on the GM to do that. You don't pick a bunch of skill players before you have the quarterback that can support them and the offensive system they can even really fit in, because again, this is a heavy run the ball offense, and you got a tight end that is not a blocker whatsoever. He's just a jumbo receiver.
Build the lines, man. Build the trenches.
So it just doesn't make any sense from that perspective. But the only way to save it, if this J-hole wants to save his job and at least buy himself another year where they might be not that great, but they would at least be fun and interesting, go trade Chicago for Justin Fields. You can probably have him for a couple twos, maybe a middling one. I don't know. But if you want to save your ass and see if those skill position players can actually do something, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I digress. I'm picking Atlanta because I just don't think the Jets are capable of more.
Atlanta. Tim Boyle, like you said, is just the Freddie meme of like, pulling
the mask off.
Yeah, pulling the mask off of God, I'm getting tired. Scooby-Doo, blah blah blah. Yeah. Okay, move on. Who are you?
Oh man, Indy at Tennessee. JT with thumb surgery. Are you kidding me? Come on. Give me a fucking break.
2 years in a row, JT, he didn't nuke you as much as he did last year because he wasn't a first rounder like he was last year. He was like a third, fourth, like kind of pick. But still, you're relying on JT to be a starting asset in your fantasy lineup every week. And late in the season, again, he goes down, out for season. God damn, man. God damn.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Zach Moss. A smash pickup on the waivers, a full fab send if he is there.
Yeah.
Whatever fab you have remaining, because he's going to get all the work for now. Will JT in theory come back in a couple weeks? I don't know. That's what we're looking at right now, but obviously we're into week 13.
He might be dead by then.
So right, exactly. So you gotta just make it happen. And in terms of Indy's offense overall, it hurts him because he was a huge chain mover. The threat of him breaking a run to the outside, kind of like makes the offense go in a lot of ways. But Pittman, always a start. Josh Downs is a consideration because, especially in PPR league, he's got a really safe floor. And obviously,
13 targets last week.
Yeah, he gets a ton of looks from Minshew.
Minshew, yeah.
And Indy's been winning. Like, they're in the playoff hunt. This is a pick'em with a 42.5 over under, which I find to be, as a fan, obviously the JT thing moved that line, but that's disrespectful because Tennessee is cheeks. Henry has proven that he can still do it in the right matchup. D-Hop's got a really low ceiling with Will Levis, but you're fine to start him, especially against a fairly suspect defense. I'll pause here because I did a ton of the talking, just breaking it down. But was there anything on Tennessee or Indy that kind of stood out to you that you wanted to hop in on?
Yeah, on the Tennessee side, he's not the main guy, but why did they just not give any run to Tajay Spears all of a sudden?
I heard something on another podcast. This is not verified. Do not take this as any kind of gospel, but I'm really taking a look at tomorrow and Thursday's practice reports because I think we might have a phantom injury situation.
Okay. Yeah. It would be odd.
He randomly disappeared without any rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
He's been used in that offense, and he's shown some juice.
For sure. Like, he's definitely a guy that Dynasty Leagues, like, I'm kind of excited for.
Yeah.
You know, because I can see them, Tennessee, that is not really moving on from Derrick Henry.
They're not going to re-sign him. He's 30. And, I mean, if I'm Derrick Henry, obviously Tennessee's been my home or whatever, but, like, you see the direction Tennessee's headed in. I mean, if I don't want to just straight up retire, I'm gonna go somewhere else. You know?
I think if
I'll go to Baltimore or whatever.
I think if Vrabel sticking around has a lot to do with that. We'll see if he does or doesn't. But anyways, Tajay Spears is a guy that I'm intrigued by. So I was like, it was odd, but I think that's a good point you make. He might have an injury that gets reported, come tomorrow, as we're recording on a Tuesday. But yeah, I am with you. I think Pittman and Downs are going to be good starts in this game.
Yeah, especially against the pass funnel.
Yeah, which they've been a little bit better lately, but I don't care. Like, where is the game, by the way? Is it Indy or Tennessee?
It's in Tennessee, but
okay.
Dude, Steichen has that offense humming. Like, I'm really impressed with how well they've played with a backup court. Look at all these backup quarterbacks falling on their faces all over the league.
And you know what? Not all backups are created equally, and Minshew
that's fair.
Can start games for he's obviously showing that this year, but I think he's proven in the past, like, he could be like bottom tier, but at least a starter, and he can do okay in a good system with some weapons around him.
He's really turnover prone, which is problematic.
Yeah,
but his issues with turnovers are decision based. And sometimes, sometimes he'll just make a bad read, but when the read is simple and it's there in front of him, he hits the receivers accurately, which I know sounds very simple, but you're seeing it all over the league that a lot of times that doesn't happen.
It doesn't. So could be a fun game here, but yeah, let me get Indy.
Same. I've got Indy. I'm going to take the pick. I mean, come on. Tennessee is trash. Even with no JT. Next game, Denver at Houston. Nice over-under, 47.5. They're giving Houston 3.5. Obviously, Denver's been really hot. We know who we start with Denver. It's a very kind of two fantasy player offense, except in the landscape of where we are with bye weeks right now. Do you think Samaje is a good replacement? Like, I've got JT. I'm tilting my face off. I need a running back start. Can Samaje be my guy?
Yeah, I think a week like this, I mean, it depends on pretty much your league size. Like, if you're in a 12 team or above, maybe a 10 team if you're just like really assed out with buys and injuries. Yeah, I mean, Samaje has been getting involved. He's been getting a lot of receptions, which you've heard the stat before. It's worth 2.5 more times than a carry. Like, that's what you want in fantasy is, if you can't have the everything, at least have a guy that catches passes and seemingly they trust on the goal line. That there are worse consolation prizes than that, So he's a spot start. He's a spot start for me.
Especially with Houston, as awesome as they've been in other areas, still not great against the run.
Yeah, they're basically average across the board in defensive, efficiency everywhere now, which is fine. They're growing.
Yes, dude, I'm really impressed, man. Wow. Start everybody on Houston. Like, all the players who are going to start, just start them, except Dame Pierce. He's getting the same run as Devin Singletary. He's just not really doing anything with it, which is kind of frustrating because you would want Dev to get more of it. But like you mentioned, Dev catches passes, which gives him more value anyway.
What was the snap counts from last week? My question.
Closer than you would like. I want to say I saw it earlier. I didn't write it down. I think I don't know. I want to say it was like 60-40, something like that. It was pretty close to that anyway. But I know that in terms of touches, they were really close. It's just that Pierce is just, running in the line for a yard or two. But the coaching staff just seems to like him for some reason.
Yeah, so he got 82%, Devin Singletary.
Well, but what did Dame get for touches? I thought it was pretty close. I thought their touches.
Well, that's the thing. So Singletary, he got 13 opportunities. So 6 carries, 18 yards, 6 receptions, but 7 targets. So for 54 yards for Singletary. I don't know, man. Dame Pierce, to me, just seems like he's the type of guy. I said it a few weeks ago. Dame Pierce in a vacuum is a good player. But I think that Devin Singletary absolutely fits what they've morphed their offensive system into. He fits that scheme better. And I think he's proved to just earn the trust of the offensive staff a lot more. So I don't think Dame really gets back to even being a 50-50 guy. I think that Singletary is going to be.
I actually thought it was closer. Maybe I just missed something, but he only got 6 opportunities. So yeah, I mean it's Singletary.
Yeah. I think it's Singletary going forward. I would, I'd basically look to start Singletary in the flex whenever possible.
Who are you taking in this game?
I mean, I'm a Houston believer. I'm going to go in Houston.
Okay. So they're going to cover the 3.5. I think this could be a really close game. I want Houston. I still want Houston. I like Denver. I think they're a better team, but this whole Russell Wilson is back thing, he still hasn't really had a great game. He's done enough to win, but to me, with how CJ is playing right now, you got to keep up with their scoring, and I'm just not sure that offense can do that.
Yeah.
So I've got Houston too. San Fran at Philly, game of the week.
Absolutely.
Obviously, this is a battle for potentially the number 1 seed in the NFC. With San Fran, there is literally nothing to talk about. You're starting everybody. Obviously, with Brock Purdy, we saw from last week, he can have poor games just depending on where the touchdown goes, because it's not always going to be him throwing it. But I very much doubt that he's not a top 12 play this week, especially against Philly's.
Struggling secondary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just I just think that they're going to have opportunities, despite the fact that I honestly, with the Bills and Philly game last week, I think Josh Allen was pretty uniquely able to neutralize the strength of Philly's defense, which is their front. So I think he was able to take advantage of them more. But regardless, you're starting everybody on San Fran.
Yeah.
And I've overused this quote. You've overused this quote. Well, you've had me overuse the quote from Breaking Bad. He can't keep getting away with it. Philly just keeps squeaking by. The refs, the big plays, the clutch plays. Now, give them credit. They made clutch plays on both sides of the ball. All of those things. But they're not going to get away with it this week. San Fran.
It's bold. Picking against the Stripes out there.
True. Stripes in Philly, no less.
Dude, I just feel like Philly, they can beat you in so many ways. And the X factor for Philly this week, I think they're going to just push up the middle on defense. They're going to push up the middle I think they're going to be able to fluster Purdy, and
The
they'll be
pressure,
ready.
the pressure up the middle.
Yeah,
He's not Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He doesn't have the. He's not
the
Lamar,
lateral
which would give
quickness
him
is not
troubles.
his strong suit.
Yeah.
When he can sit in the pocket, he's a surgeon. He's great at that. I don't think that Philly's going to allow that to happen. And Hurts is just a freaking winner, man. They're going to find a way. I hate to do it, but they're going to find a way to win this game.
You know, honestly, look, hey, dude, Philly's 10-1. Obviously, betting against them is tough.
And they're in Philly.
You know, and any betting sharp will tell me that I'm an idiot because I'm taking 2.5 for the road team against a team that consistently just finds either bullshit or non-bullshit ways to win. But I just have a feeling here. And I'll give you a little piece of analysis of why I think San Fran can win this game and where I think they can exploit them. I think Shanahan's going to have a scheme. I think he's going to have a plan. I think he's going to attack the boundaries on runs a lot. And I think he is going to run an offense that patiently dinks and dunks Phillies long enough to where the defensive coordinator, the pass rush, they get greedy at the wrong time, and they get a big play over the top. That's what I think the game plan would be if I were Shanahan, but I'm not. I'm very stupid. But I just think San Fran finds a way to approximate lateral quickness that Purdy doesn't have with scheme.
That's very possible. Both things can be true. He can do that very well and still not win.
Yeah, that's fair.
But this is a great game on paper for a reason. For my fandom, I hope you're right because I'm tired of seeing Philly be so dominant. But I
hear it every week. I got two Philly fans in the office. I hear it every week. Hopping that jersey, walking in.
Yeah, great guys. You see the little kid, that video of the little kid poking him? I'm like, my God,
it's a scumbag town, bro. Like if I didn't hate it so much, I'd love it.
If you're not from there, I think you hate it. And then Philly fans get into fights with players, like arguments, not fist fights, but
yeah.
I mean, God damn, man.
Well, but the thing is, it's become a meme of itself because they've had that reputation, and then they absorb the reputation and they embrace the reputation, so they do it even more, and it becomes a scum NATO out there.
Yeah, I mean, when one of your fans is a very popular YouTuber who's also a pedo, it's hard to really gain any traction back.
I'm not blaming all Philly fans for him, but yeah, that's a tough look. Next game, we got Cleveland going out to sunny Los Angeles to play the Rams. 3.5 home favorites, 39.5 over under. It's PJ Walker time. And Amari Cooper is hurt.
Yeah.
And Myles Garrett is hurt.
God, I didn't even know that.
Yep.
How bad?
Now, well, he's questionable, right? Like he could end up playing, but he hurt his shoulder. I think he was I think he was out of the game, in the game. I don't remember, but basically Cleveland already had a horrendous passing game that was impacting the running game. And the best part of their defense is the pass rush. So just something to watch there. It's something to watch. On the Cleveland side, Jerome Ford's getting more consolidation and touches, so I would say he's absolutely in play.
Yeah, he is.
I just don't know if anybody else is.
Man, yeah, I mean, you can take a shot on Elijah Moore and hope for the best. Of course, you can start Njoku. I actually think he's fine to start. I think he can have a decent game here, but that's really it. I mean, Kareem Hunt has seen his volume go down, and he's basically just a vulture back at this point.
Yeah. Kyron Williams heard you talking shit, Andrew. And he said, take this into your efficiency and stuff it. With 2 monster touchdowns through the air. And obviously, like, I'm being facetious here. Tyron and the running game gashed Arizona. We'll see what happens kind of going forward, but it was a huge day for fantasy.
Yeah.
And actually at the expense of the other pass catchers,
Mm-hmm.
Puka and Coop. How are we feeling about that?
Man, like I heard Denzel Ward might not play. But,
another injury.
Yeah, another injury. But Cooper Kupp is definitely one of the biggest panic alarm players right now.
Yeah, it's been like,
but like you put it
of just bad performances.
Put it into perspective. He's been dealing with injuries for really 2 years now. And then he re-injured his ankle a few weeks ago and is playing through it. Production often falls, and he's looking like more of a decoy right now. So it's crazy to say, but you can bench Cooper Kupp until further notice, because it's hard to do. It's very hard to do, especially in a week like this. But if he's really a decoy out there getting a handful of targets,
it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right looking at a fantasy bench and seeing Cooper Kupp, an active Cooper Kupp, on there. That doesn't look right.
Right.
And what makes it even worse,
as you've said this before, I'm going to quote you. I can handle a struggling player. I can handle a bad matchup. I can't handle both. And right now, that's both.
From the man's mouth himself. You're right. And look, the truth is you can't let even a great player keep hurting you. Like, it happens once, whatever, anomaly. It happens twice, okay, concerning trend. It happens 3 times, we're on fire the wrong way.
Yeah. You're ice cold.
But here's the crazy thing, though, Andrew, because, okay, you would think, all right, if it's not Cooper Kupp time, then it must be Puka time. But it hasn't been Puka time either. So what's up with that, man?
I think for this past game, really, he just didn't get the touchdown. It was scripted out. Things just didn't break his way. I think Puka's absolutely startable in this game, especially with Cooper Kupp being out there being a decoy. And I think Puka's actually going to have a solid game.
I looked back and I really thought that Puka's last 4 games had been terrible, but he actually had a good game. He got a touchdown last week. The 2 previous games to that were pretty suspect, but that's actually fine for a receiver. They're going to have some variance. So, yeah, probably right. Oh, man. I don't know what to do with this game, but I think I'm going to reel in another minus sign. I think I'm going to take the Rams. I just think Cleveland is too banged up.
And what'd you say the spread was?
3.5.
3.5. Oh, man. With that kind of defense, though, yeah. I'm with you, and I think the league is catching up to I think they've all been caught up. But PJ Walker is just like not that dude. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I know I'm gross. I've been blowing my nose and coughing up crap for 3 weeks now.
Down with the sickness.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. Where was I? Yes, Rams. I think it might be too much to overcome with PJ Walker and banged up defense. I think the Rams are going to be able
Cleveland's
to
overcome a lot this year. They've actually been great at dealing with adversity. It's admirable, but I just think it's too much, especially if your best player on both sides of the ball is banged up. Kansas City goes to Lambeau Field, where they are favored by not even a touchdown, Andrew, with a 42 over under. I think that this is an indictment on Kansas City's offense.
Mhm.
And I think it's a vote of confidence to the new look Green Bay. And a suddenly surging Jordan Love. Kansas City, obviously, we know already the big three out there, but it might be a big four now, potentially, because Rashee Rice had his first 100-yard game. The snaps have been going up. The targets, have been kind of back and forth, ping-ponging back and forth, but being targeted on a majority of his routes, like all of the stuff that we like to see has been there underneath the surface. Just the fantasy production hasn't been, but the man got over 100 and a tud. So, like, is it Rashi's season? Can we trust him going forward? What's your feeling and sense of that?
My feeling and sense is that this was a game that saw no Kadarius Toney, no Mecole Hardman, and Rashee Rice is the best wide receiver on that team. I think that Mahomes is going to say to the coaches, like, bro, fuck these other guys. We need to start getting the ball to Rashee a lot more. And like, I just think that the trust is being built. Mahomes is going to be looking to him a lot more than some of these other Jags that they have on their team. But I will say his touchdown was a crossing pattern.
Yeah.
That he took to the house, which is awesome. That ability is great. Downfield targets are more valuable. And I do feel like there are certain roles on teams. MVS, as much as he sucks,
I don't think he deserves that role after
but he has
last week.
And Justin Watson is also part of that. He has more of a downfield role. So I think Rashee is going to be solid for PPR, and you hope that he can break a long play because he's kind of being used a lot like a bigger version of Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Where a lot of things are short and, kind of over the middle, and those possession receptions that are only valuable when you break a big play off of them.
I agree with you. He's the best of the receivers. Like, he has to be ascending. I mean, again, maybe Rashee Rice is awesome. I don't know, but the reality is we know the rest of those receivers are not awesome. And I have a little bit of like maybe this is just a conspiracy theory. I think KT got shadow benched. I don't think it was an injury at all. The man practiced fully all week and then is a surprise scratch on game day with a hip injury. Sus.
There is literally every single other player in the NFL I would agree with you with, but as a former Giant and the ungodly amount of times that fucking idiot was injured, it's like almost like unsurprising, but maybe that plays into it too, where they
both things you could kind of see, right? Like you can kind of see both things happening.
And guess what? They should bench him if he's completely healthy. The guy sucks. Been saying it for a long time. Terrible draft pick by the Giants. You traded down. You could have had Micah friggin' Parsons. You traded down and you drafted that moron. So,
well, at least he's not your problem anymore. But yeah, man, So what we saw last week was forced consolidation. I'm hoping, and I actually expect there to be like willing consolidation of these pass catchers because he's been more reliable. Yeah, Justin Watson, is involved. He gets down the field more, but he got one catch for 3 yards last week. Like, I think that we should see more of Rashee going forward, and we will.
Yeah, for sure.
On the Green Bay side, Aaron Jones He's got an MCL. I am not very confident that he plays this week, but obviously it's Tuesday. You all in the future will probably know. But I'm if I had to guess, I don't think he goes. I guess the only question for me on Green Bay, because obviously we talked about it last week, that Jaden Reed was ascending, has ascended, and now is in the ascension, above all those other pass catchers. So that's decided. Jordan Love has had 3 straight QB1 finishes. For those of us that have some bye week issues this week, is he going to be a top 12 play against one of the best defenses in football this week?
There's enough bye weeks. Yeah. He is. I'll put him at QB 10.
Let's play a quick name game.
Let's do it.
Jordan Love or Russell Wilson? Russell's playing Houston's pretty middling.
Yeah. Yeah, give me Jordan.
Jordan Love or Baker against the bottom-dwelling Carolina Panthers?
I can never trust Baker to be like a good fantasy asset, so I'd put Jordan Love.
Okay. And I'm going to do one more just for fun. I will randomly look at a list of quarterbacks here. Jordan Love or Sam Howell?
That's a tough one.
Not that he's like a waiver option by any means, but somebody you might.
Yeah, if you had them both on your team, who are you starting? Yeah, so who was Washington playing again? I forget.
Miami.
Could be a higher scoring game. I would take Howell there, but it's close.
Yeah, I would too. And honestly, where we are with like quarterbacks bye weeks, man, I'm talking myself into them too.
Do it.
I agree.
Do it.
I might literally do it. Last game, Monday night. Speaking of suspect, primetime football. Cincinnati at Jacksonville. A 38 over-under, 8.5 home favorites for Jacksonville, which really gives Cincinnati a touchdown and a field goal per Vegas. Basically, a little, maybe a little more than that, but, not a lot of points. So what can Browning do for you? Not a whole lot, apparently. Jamar is too explosive and can make all of his money on one play. I personally, despite the bleh production, I feel like I have to start him. But there are other question marks on this team, Andrew. Joe Mixon only got 8 carries in a neutral game script and had very weak fantasy production. Caught a couple passes, so ended up having like 7 or 8 fantasy points. What's your level of worry with Joe Mixon?
Joe Mixon, to me, has remained valuable because he is a volume hog.
On a good offense.
On a good offense. Yeah, well, in his current state, not so much. But yes, in recent history, yes. If he is on a struggling offense and the volume's getting cut, I want no part of Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, some of us don't have a choice, but it's more than concerning, especially against a tough defense.
What was he at? How many opportunities did you say he got? 8?
8. He had 8 carries. Now, I think he got maybe 5 or 6 targets. I don't remember exactly, but he got 8 carries for a running back. I mean, especially like when you're trying to protect a suspect quarterback, you would think that you would give your guy more than 8 carries, but I don't know. I don't know, Zach. I don't know about that.
If there's got to be evidence that he's getting